C-SPAN's local content vehicles are traveling the country, visiting cities and communities as we look at issues impacting the nation. We take you now to Cobo Arena in Detroit for the North American International Auto Show, where we caught up with California Republican Congressman John Campbell as he talked about the industry with Rod Alberts, the executive director of the show. Before being elected to Congress, Mr. Campbell worked in the automotive industry.
25 years in the car business, and so I was Ford, but I had 4 Saturn stores.
Oh, you did, yeah.
I was Ford, Saturn, Buick GMC truck, Lincoln Mercury, we had Mazda, Nissan, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen, and then for a little bits of time, Ferrari, Mitsubishi, and
you
a
understood
couple
the
of
business
cats and
aspect
dogs.
that
Over 25
well.
years. So.
Yeah, so which really parlays well into what you're doing now with Congress and your 4th term coming that you're into right now.
Right, yeah, just starting my 4th term, and it. I tell people, I joke with people, kind of that the car business was a good background for being in politics. There's actually, as you may know, there were 3 either former or current car dealers just elected to Congress in this last election.
Right.
So there's now 6 of us that either were or are currently. I'm not in the car business anymore, but that were or are car dealers.
You know, the best thing, what I like about that is it's entrepreneurs. They have this family business. You got to grow, and you got responsibility to a lot of employees. It plays well, and it makes an understanding from the inside of what it means.
And running a dealership is such a diverse business. You know, I always said you have a sales business, you have a maintenance, service business.
Right.
If you have a body shop, that's almost like a manufacturing business. You have a parts distribution business. You have all these different businesses. So you see, and I also point out that we bought or sold virtually every form of insurance that there is, and so you do touch a lot of the economy and a lot of different things.
But we've had a lot of leadership coming in from out of Congress in the last 2 years, no doubt about that. And with all the relationship now that we have in Washington, do you see a lot of a big benefit coming here and seeing what's going on with the industry and all that too?
When I was in the middle, as many of us were, but in the crash and the crisis in late 2008, and one of the things about the American economy is there are 2 huge businesses, cars and housing. And we have never gone into a recession without both of those leading us in, and we will never come out without both of those leading us out.
It's a great indicator all the way around too, with and the heart and soul of it, right?
And they're just too big. I mean, they're too big in employment. They're too big in terms of the total effect on the economy that you just can't. Because I remember people saying to me, "Well, what about pizza stores?" And I'm like, "It's great. We want pizza stores and all that sort of thing, but that's not a big enough chunk of the economy to lead everybody else out. Cars and houses can, and so this is we need jobs in America right now.
That's exactly what I was saying.
We need economic growth, and we're not going to get it without this industry and housing industry both coming out.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the jobs that come out indirectly, that come out of the business, not just with the manufacturer itself and the supplier, but it trickles into every field there is out there because it's all interrelated.
Well, right, because you think about, it's not just building and selling cars, but tires and maintenance and body shops and insurance and gasoline and all kinds of other things that support the individual transportation that we enjoy in this country and that we call cars and trucks. And so at one time, I don't know if it's this high or now, but it was like 1 out of every 7 people in the United States was employed in one way or another with something to do with cars. So that's a big chunk of the economy, and there's so many things of my experience in the car business that are of use and have come to value for me in Congress. And one of them is when people say stuff, we're just raising taxes by $25 or $50 or whatever. And come with me sometime. Sit across the table from a customer who for $20 a month or for $100 gets up and leaves, because that's a lot of money, and because they work hard for that money, and because they're not just going to leave it on the table or walk away from it. And so when you have decades of experience with people like that, you understand a little better, I think, than some of my colleagues do, frankly, how the average American family works hard for and clings on to that money, and how valuable it is to them.
One other thing too in regard, you see a lot of the alternative fuel vehicles here in the electric cars. In fact, we have a ride and drive down in an area here too, and people love going around those the course, but they can't hear the car. So there's a little bit of acceptance too to all this new green technology that's being pushed forward. And I know California, where you're from, You hear about that all the time, and either defending or trying to make sure it works with the lifestyle and what people are doing now. How are things in California now, and where do you see things going? Is that a tough one to get into?
I mean, there's kind of two things there:
Sure.
California and alternative fuel vehicles. California's economy is tough right now. I mean, we have the second or third highest unemployment in the nation, behind Nevada and maybe Michigan.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're right in there. Right.
I think Michigan's coming back
we
now.
got things to do.
And California's not, and we have huge budget problems, and California's got some issues these days, and so and I know car business, housing business, everything else is affected there. As far as some of the alternative vehicles and so forth coming out, I mean, that's great that we're exploring in some of these areas, but in the end, if these are ever going to be something more than relative niche, we're going to need some breakthroughs. I mean, I know there's the Nissan Leaf and some all-electric vehicles and so forth here, but those are unlikely to be practical for mass use until there's a battery breakthrough, which we've been working on for decades, haven't found yet. Doesn't mean we won't find it tomorrow, but it's not there yet. Things like the Chevy Volt with its, which is essentially an electric car with a generator on board, a gasoline-powered onboard generator, has more potential. But I think the question with that is that right now there's a $7,500 government subsidy on those. That can't last forever. When that goes away and the full price of the car becomes available, will people still buy it, or will the manufacturers be able to get the price down? And we'll see. I think there's a lot of vibrancy out there, a lot of new ideas, a lot of things happening. But in the end, these technologies need to compete. And in government, we should not be picking a winner, and we shouldn't be saying this is the one and we're going to give all the money in the world to that one or whatever. Let them compete, let them work out there, and let the marketplace sort this thing out.
You know, I agree with that. We're finding that even when Carlos Ghosn and others came in here, they were talking this summer about what the next technology is. Everybody has to pick and roll the dice on the one they think it may be.
Right.
And nobody really knows what that energy is, or there's so many choices out there, and to be efficient and make sure for the consumer it's what they want. So there's so many variables to go into it that you can't really force that issue. You've got to let it develop. It's good that we're looking into the research and the technology, but we can't just force the hand and make it happen.
No, we
and
can't.
Government has a part, but not too much. It's got to be a good balance.
Right, and you even look at like ethanol and E85. If we actually got too much use of ethanol, we couldn't produce enough in this country to take care of it. And right now, there's about, I think it's 7 or 8 million cars on the road that can be fueled with E85 or E20 or E50 or E whatever. But there aren't a lot of stations. In Southern California, where I live, I think there's 2, one in Santa Monica, one in Carlsbad, for 20 million people, and that's it. So you can have these cars, but if you can't find any place to put ethanol in them, what good is it? So there's a lot of these policy houses, and that's a chicken or an egg.
It is.
And manufacturers don't want to build a car that people can't fuel, and the fuel distribution doesn't want to put a distribution together for something that nobody's going to use because there aren't cars that use it. So there's a lot of things like that.
C-SPAN's local content vehicles are traveling the country, visiting cities and communities as we look at issues impacting the nation. For more information on our local content vehicles, go to our website at cspan.org/LCV.